Om Sadashivasamarambham
Om
Shankaracharya
Shankaracharya
Madhyamam
Shankaracharya Mathyamam
Asmadacharya
Madhacharya
Paryantam
Paryantam
Vande
Vande
Guru
Guru
Paramparam
Paramparam
Om
Om
Sahanam Vatu
Sahana Bhavatu
Sahanau
Sahanau
Bhunaktu
Bhunaktu
Sahavirya
Sahavirya
Varavahai
Varavahai
Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma
Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma
Vidvishavahai
Vidvishavahai
Om
Om
Shanti
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 Om Tat Sat, Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Okay, so we are on which one now?
Fourth.
The fourth one we are on. So let me just locate that. Okay, so the fourth one. So we will chant the fourth mantra. Kali Karali Chamanoja
Kali
Ali
Karali
Kali Chamano Javacha
Sulohita Yacha Sudhumra Varna
Sulohitaya
Yata Sudhumna
Varna
Varna
Sulingini Vishwaruchi cha Devi
Pulini
Pulini
Vishwaruchi Cha
Vishwaruchi
Devi
Lelayamana iti sapta jihva
Lelayamana
Lelayamana Iti Sapta Jitva.
So I will draw your attention to the second mantra of this khanda, where we said Yada Lelayate Hyarchihi Samidhe Hyavyavahane. We had said that when the flames are well kindled, Samidhe, well kindled. And what is that well kindled? That is being explained here in this particular mantra. The mantra explains Samidhe. So look at the words. Kali, Kali means dark. Karali, terrible or very fiery. Manojava, Manojava is the one that moves like the mind. So that one that moves very, very quickly like the mind. Sulohita is deep red. And Sudhumra Varna is color. Sudhumra is smoke colored. So just like smoke colored, ash colored. Spulingini is sparkling. And Vishwaruchi Devi. Vishwaruchi means, Vishwa means many, Ruchi is color. So Vishwaruchi, many colors. Devi, Devi is a adjective to each one of these. Iti Lelayamanaha, these are Lelayamanaha means moving. Saptajivhaha, 7 flames of fire, 7 tongues of fire. Saptajivha. Tongue, Jivha means tongues. And the tongues of what? The tongues of the fire. And that's why I said that we are talking about the word Samidhe. What was the significance of the use of the word Samidhe in that mantra, in the second mantra? It meant that oblations, the havihi, should be offered only when the fire is well kindled, when the flames are being quite strong, and the fire is well kindled. And what is the rationale for that? So Agni Devata, Shastra visualizes Agni Devata as the messenger of the gods, as the courier service. So if you want to give a particular oblation to say Indra Devata, then when you give it into the fire in the Homa Kunda, you say Indraya Swaha. When you say Indraya Swaha, Agni accepts the oblation from you. Agni Devata accepts the oblation from you and delivers it to Indra. And therefore, Indra is the destination and Agni is the courier. If you say Agni Swaha, then Agni will accept it for himself. So you can, any of the devatas, you can doing the Sankalpa, according to the Sankalpa, Agni Devata will deliver the oblation to that particular Devata. And where do you deliver the oblation to? You deliver it to the mouth of Agni Devata, into the mouth of Agni Devata. And the Homa Kunda, in any ritual, in any Homam, the Homa Kunda itself is the mouth of Agni Devata. And if you want to deliver the oblation to the mouth of Agni Devata, what is the first condition?
The fire should be well lit.
Hello,
Well,
Ravi. You
yes.
should know where the mouth is.
Exactly. You should know where the mouth is, and the mouth should be open. Okay. So how do you know when the mouth is open? The mouth is open when you see the tongue. And the tongues of Agni Devata are the flames. And when we see the flames, we know that Agni Devata has opened his mouth. And at that point, when you can see the flames, secure in the knowledge that Agni Devata has opened his mouth, you will deliver the Havihi into the Homakunda, which is his mouth. And here a description is given. Agni Devata has 7 tongues in different colors, 7 different colors. And what are the tongues of this flame? Sapta Jivha, 7 tongues are there. So one tongue is Kali, dark or deep blue, very, very deep blue flame. You know, like when you burn wet wood, you get a particular color. So that is Kali. Then there is Karali. Karali is very ferocious. In terms of the flame, it means it is a very high temperature of the flame and it's uncomfortable for you. So you have to actually move away from the flame because it makes you uncomfortable. So that is Karali. And Manojava literally means like the mind moving. So fast moving flame. You know, Homakunda, you will find that flame jumps from one end of the Homakunda to the other sometimes, you know, because of the way the fuel is put, it will seem to you as if the flame is moving from one end of the Homakunda to another end of the Homakunda fast, very quickly. And that is Manojava. Then Sulohita, deep red flame. Then Sudhumra Varna, smoky flame, ash colored flame. Then Spulungini. Spulungini is like in Diwali, you use those sparklers, right? Move your hand around, the flame sparkles. Spulungini is that kind of sparkling flame. And they're all Shanikam, momentary in nature. Vishwaruchi, obviously, Ruchi means color, Vishwa means many. So flame has not just one color, it has got very many colors. And then the word Devi is there. Devi here literally means the bright shining one. And this Devi has to be added to each of these flames. So Kali Devi, Karali Devi, Manojava Devi, Salohita Devi, Sudhumra Varna Devi, and so on. It's the bright shining one. It's the Visheshanam, the adjective to each one of these names of the flames. And what is the purpose of the flame? As I said, it is to accept the oblations, and Shankaracharya very specifically says, Havihi ahutihi grasnartham. The purpose of the flame is to accept the Havihi, the ahuti, the oblation. And of course, the 7 lighted flames must be very, very visible to you, must be clearly visible to you. Lelaya manaha aptajivhaha. Only then is the fire ready to swallow. And the tongues are like, they are called the tongues because the flames flicker. You know, why are the flames called tongue? Jivha, because they flicker. And you can take an analogy to the flickering tongue of a snake. You know? So because the tongue flickers, the snake's tongue flickers and the flame also flickers. And therefore it's been called the tongue of the flame. Okay. Now we look at the 5th mantra. We will read. Eteshtu yascharate bhrajamaneshu.
Eteshu
Yashate Brahmajamanishu.
Eteshu yascharate bhrajamaneshu.
Yashate
Brahmaneshu
यथा कालं चाहुतयो याददायन्
यथा कालं याहुतयो यादधायन्
तं नयन्त्येताः सूर्यस्य रश्मयः
तन्नयत्येतः सूर्यस्य रश्मयः
तं नयन्त्येताः सूर्यस्य रश्मयः
तं नयन्त्येता सूर्यस्य रश्मयः
यत्र देवानां पतिरेकोऽधिवासः
यत्र
यत्र देवानां पतिरेको
देवानां
So you should note that Nayantyeta, the Visarga turns into a half sa because there is a sa following, and therefore Tam Nayantyeta Suryasya Rashmayaha. Simple chanting rules, which I'm sure that Tanmayji has already told you, but anyway. Okay, now, so look at the words Yaha Charate. So Yaha is that person, and Charate here is that person who is performing the rituals. So Yas Charate is the Yajamana, the person who is performing the rituals. Eteshu Bhrajamaneshu. So Eteshu means Jivheshu, into those tongues. Bhrajamaneshu, which are shining. So into those shining tongues. Yatha Kalam Cha, at the proper time. Adadayan. Adadayan means to lead or to take. Rashmayaha Suryasya, in the form of the Surya Rashmaya, the rays of the sun. Rashmaya is the ray, Surya is the sun. So Rashmaya Suryasya, in the form of the rays of the sun. Etaha Ahutayaha, these oblations, Tam Nayanti, takes that person. Which person? The person who is doing the Agnihotram, the person who is doing the ritual. Where do they take him? Yatra, to that place, to that loka. Devanam patihi ekaha adhivasaha. Devanam patihi is Lord Indra, is ekaha adhivasaha, is the only ruler, is the unrivaled ruler. Okay, now what does it mean? So yaha charate, the person is offering oblations. And this is the Agnihotri ritual we're talking about. Oblations can be milk and ghee. And how is it to be done? So the very specific karma kanda rule is here. Yatha kalam. Yatha kalam means at the proper time. So Agnihotram, for example, is done thrice a day. And you can, even if you think of it as twice a day for the purpose of explanation, let us say it's morning and evening. So Yatha Kalam means that the oblation has to be offered at the right time. Right? You cannot offer the evening oblation in the morning and say that I have done that, so I will not do it in the morning because I got up late. So I will do both the oblations morning and evening in the evening. And so Yatha Kalam means it has to be done as it is prescribed. Right? To take an example, in some of these IT companies, they celebrate all the birthdays which fell during the month on the last day of the month. Those who work in IT companies will know the last Saturday or the last day working day of the month is birthday day. So they don't celebrate every day. You might have 10 people who have had birthdays during the month, but that all gets celebrated with one large cake on the last day. That is violation of Yathakala, right? So if, for example, tomorrow is Ekadashi, then I've got work tomorrow. I cannot say, let me fast today. So today is Sunday and I am free. That is also not Yathakala. So Yathakala means as prescribed. You have to do it according to the Vedic prescription. And Brajamaneshu, into the shining tongues, Brajamaneshu, Juheshu, into the shining tongues of the Agni. And Cha Ahutayoho, Hi Adadayan. So Ahutaya literally means the oblation, but here you can take it as the Ahuti Devata. The Devatas who are responsible for receiving the oblation. Because anything in the view of the Shastra, everything in creation needs an appropriate force to make it function. And that force can be called the Devata. What do they do? Adadayan hi. They take this person. Which person? The Agnihotri, the Yajamanaha. They take. And tam nayanti. Tam is referring to the Yajamana. Nayanti is to take. So he adadayan, they will take this person where Suryasya Rashmayoho, through the solar rays, with the help of the sun's rays, they take. And in Shastra, the connection between the Bhuloka and the Swargaloka is supposed to happen through the sun rays, to solar rays. Okay, there is an elaborate discussion in Brahma Sutra. Anyway, that's by the way. But the connection, the path between the Swargaloka and the Bhuloka is supposed to be through the sun's rays. Therefore, Surya Rashmihi, through the solar rays, they will be taken. Taken where? Yatra Devanam Patihi Ekaha Adivasaha, where Indra is the ruler, who is the unrivaled king, right? Ekaha means unrivaled. And Yatraha means Swargaloka, or the heavenly world. Okay. Now, there is a question here. These ahutis, it is the oblation, right? The oblation cannot really take a person anywhere. So what is to be understood? By doing the particular ritual, by giving the ahuti, a certain amount of punyam is generated, right? And this punyam is the one which carries you to the other world through these rays. And one more point to be made here, especially for people like us who are not very familiar with karma kanda, is that remember that karma is always subject to vikalpa, alternatives. Okay, so if one karma is being prescribed here, which can generate punyam, you can do any other karma which generates punyam, and depending upon the sankalpa, that punyam can be utilized for the same purpose as the previous karma, right? So the same result which you can get by doing Agnihotram, the result is what? The punyam which will carry you to the next world, right? That same punyam can be generated by some other karma. That's why I said karma is amenable to vikalpa. Karma is always amenable to alternatives. You can do alternative karma. You need not do the same karma which has been prescribed in the Veda, especially if you don't know how to do it. And today's world, most of us don't know how to do all these Vedic karmas. And therefore, what has happened is the Puranic karmas have come into play. So puja, parayanam, kirtanam, japa, dhyanam, these are all good substitutes for Agnihotra. Right. In fact, there is a Upanishad. I think it's called the Kali Santaranaha Upanishad. Right. It says that Vidhi Kriya Vihina Nam. So in this Kali Yuga, that Upanishad accepts that there are people who are Kriya Vidhi Vihina, who do not have knowledge of the Vidhi and the rituals, Vidhi and Kriya. Vidhi is the particular instruction, Kriya is the ritual, and Vihinam means without. So Vidhi, Kriya, Vihinam, these people don't have knowledge of Vidhi or of rituals. For them, Hare Nama Aiva Kevalam. Harinama Japa alone is sufficient to give Chitta Shuddhi. So that's what it says. So here very clearly pointing out that any karma involving Ishvara is sufficient to give you Chitta Shuddhi. And therefore, in today's world, it's very specific. Vidhi, Kriya, Vihinanam. The person doesn't know how to do Parayanam, doesn't know how to do Agnihotra, or even how to chant properly. So that's why he says Harinam Japa, Hare Nam Eva. Just do Harinam Japa, you get Chitta Shuddhi. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't do Bhagavad Gita chanting. I'm just saying that any karma can be substituted by an equally efficient karma which you are familiar with. The only rule is what? That there should be Ishvara involved in that. Without Ishvara involved, there is no punya. Then what will happen? The karma will generate sufficient punya. And you will be carried When will that punyam carry you to Swargaloka? Obviously, the body has to die first, right? So at the time of the death of the physical body, this punyam will carry you to the appropriate path. So at the time of the death, we have to recall from Tattvabodha, only the Karna Shariram and the Sukshma Shariram remain. What happens to the Sthula Shariram? At the time of death, what happens to the physical body? And don't say it dies.
The physical body drops and it goes back to the Pancha Mahabhuta.
Physical body is given back to Pancha Mahabhuta by way of the cremation fire, right? And therefore, what remains is only the Sukshma Shariram and the Karma Shariram, which is, of course, the Chidabhasa, the RC. And that Jiva, the RC, survives. And that particular Jiva, which is basically Karma Shariram plus Sukshma Shariram plus the reflection of the OC. So essentially, the RC, the Jiva, is carried along this path. Now, from your discussion on Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, what are the routes available for this Jiva after death? You have to recall chapter 8.
Uttarayanam and the path of the moon, Dakshinayana.
Dakshinayana. Okay, so there's Krishna Gati and Shukla Gati also it is called. So if the Swarga is the destination, then which is the route?
The Uttarayana.
Okay, if Brahmaloka is destination, which is the route?
The Uttarayanam.
If Brahmaloka is the destination, then it is the bright path. The Shuklagati is the route. Uttarayanam is the route, right? Don't forget that. Shuklagati takes you to Brahmaloka. Krishnagati takes you to Swargaloka, right? Both are higher lokas. What about lower lokas? It was not mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. But what about lower lokas? Because obviously there are three destinations. One is you can be born in Swargaloka. One is you can go to Brahmaloka. And one is you can go to lower lokas. So this you should not forget. Brahmaloka destination is through Shuklagati. And Swargaloka destination is through Krishnagati. And Adholoka destination is also there. It is through what is known as Adhogatihi, the path to the lower worlds, where either you are born in the lower worlds or as a different type of jiva. It's a world of suffering. Okay. Now, how the Yajamana is carried by the Suryasya Rashmihi, by the rays of the sun, is now being talked about in the next mantra. The next mantra is therefore the the deities. The deities here are the personified avihi. The oblations are given the form of a devata, and these oblations are talking to the Yajamana and they are praising him. Okay, so this is the background of the next mantra, which we will chant. Mantra number 6. Ehye hiti tamahutaya suvarchasaha.
Tamahutaya suvarchasaha.
Ehye hiti tamahutaya suvarchasaha.
Ehye tamahutaya suvarchasaha.
Suryasya rashmibhir yajamanam vahanti.
Suryasya rashmiryajamanam vahanti.
Suryasya rashmibhir yajamanam vahanti.
सूर्यस्तारश्मश्चिर्यजमानमहन्ति
Priyam vacham अभिवदन्तयोर्च्यन्त्यः
प्रियां
वाचम्
वाचामभिवादन्तयोर्जयन्त्याः
Priyam vacham अभिवदन्तयो अर्चन्त्यः
प्रियां
अभिवयन्त्योर्
वाचामभिवदन्तयोर्जयन्त्यः
एषवः पुण्यसुकृतो ब्रह्मलोकः
येषवः
केशवः पुण्यो
पुण्यसुकृतो ब्रह्मलोकः
ब्रह्मलोकः
So the first word, ehe hiti, is broken up into ehi, ehi, iti. Ehi means welcome. So ehi, ehi, iti. Welcome, welcome. With the iti means with these words or in this manner. So ehi, ehi, iti. Welcome, welcome. Who says ahutayaha suvarchasaha. Suvarchasaha means very bright. Ahutaya is the oblation. But here we're talking about the oblation which has been given a personality. So the Devata, Ahutaya Devata. So the bright Ahutaya Devatas, what do? Vahanti tam yajamanam. They lead this yajamanam. They take this yajamana. Rashmibihi suryasyaha. So here these deities, they carry the yajamana through the rays of the sun. And what do? Abhivantayaha. They utter to him pleasant words. Priyam vacham. Abhivantayaha means uttering or saying. Priyam vacham. They are praising him. They are giving him. They are talking to him in pleasant words. And archayanti. They are praising him. How? These are the words which they praise him. Is eshaha. This is vaha sukrataha. Your well earned punyaha, sacred, Brahmaloka. This is your holy world, the world of Brahma, which you have achieved through all your sacred and good karma. Okay. So again, important to understand these words. Suvarchasaha ahutayaha. Ahutaya basically is the oblation, but you can understand this as the karma phalam. And Suvarchasaha means the karma phalam means punyam, right? So ahutaya has to be taken as punyam. Suvarchasaha is brilliant. So the brilliant results, which are the punyam of your karma, they take the performer of the yajna to other lokas. And this punyam is here referred to as devatas. They are the guides on this path. They are the personified form of the punyam. Devatas are the personified. They've been given a personality. And what do they say? Ehi, ehi, iti. They say welcome, welcome. And Shankara clarifies that these words are welcoming. And what he of course, Shankara of course adds another word, ahvyanti, taking the name. Ehi, ehi, they take his name also, the Yajamana's name, and say welcome, welcome, so and so. And they take the Yajamana through the solar path, and they utter pleasing words, and they praise the Yajamana, and they worship the Yajamana. So there is a Kaika Stuti also, Vachika Stuti also. There is a worship by way of bodily actions and worship by way of verbal actions also. And they tell the Yajamana, Eshavaha Punya Brahmaloke. This is the sacred Brahmaloka which you have achieved through all your karma, good karma. Okay. Now, Shankara says here that this Brahmaloka cannot be taken as Brahmaloka. Why? This is Upanishad class. You can't just sit back. You have to think. Why can this Brahmaloka not be taken as Brahmaloka? Whenever a question has to be answered, you have to look at the prakaranam, the context. What is the context here?
Is it because,
Sorry?
because the punyam is limited And once the punyam is over, the RC will
The
Why but?
oblation. The oblation is being talked about, the pure karma kanda over here, this with the sankalpa, but the upasana component is not being talked about. So
Excellent. That's the correct answer. So that because of the context, you have talked only about the ritual. There is no upasana there. And remember the discussion we had in Bhagavad Gita that unless there is upasana, karma enhanced by upasana is necessary to go to Brahmaloka. Mere karma will take you only to Swarga. And therefore, Shankara says here, Brahmaloka should be taken as Swarga for this reason. Because here there is no upasana, it's pure karma. And Sukrita means what? Result of good actions alone. So again, I'll repeat, it requires karma, upasana, samuchaya, combination to take you to Brahmaloka. But pure karma can take you only to Swargaloka. And therefore, here there is no upasana because you have taken yourself to be the karta over here. Of course, in upasana also you take yourself to be karta, but in case of both, in case of pure karma as well as karma enhanced with upasana, remember that you are subject to avidya because jnanam is not there. And as long as you are subject to avidya, you are subject to karma phalam. And therefore, Shankara says in his Bhashyam that the fruits of karma, which is not accompanied by upasana, are very limited because they are the products of avidya, kama, karma. What is the connection between avidya, kama, and karma? Shankara only makes this commentary that avidya, kama, karma, karyam, they are. They are the products of avidya, kama, and karma. And therefore, he says they are asaram. Asaram means having no essence, being completely worthless. And therefore, ataha, therefore, dukkha moolam. They are the roots of sorrow. And therefore, iti nindyante. They have to be avoided. A very potent little line. The fruits of karma not accomplished by upasana are limited. They are, after all, the products of avidya, kama, karma are worthless and therefore they are the roots of sorrow and therefore they should be avoided. My question is, why does he say avidya, kama, karma? What is the connection?
vicious cycle.
No, I
Because
want
it
a
is
complete
generating
answer.
desire only, for the fulfillment of desire, and then that's only taking you further onto the path of desire more.
You have to
and
explain
more.
all the three words, avidya, kama, karma.
Avidya means you are ignorant.
Of what?
Kama, ignorant of the true essence of your punya karma, that you only satyam, that everything else is temporary. That is avidya. And kama is desires. So karma means actions born out of avidya and desire. That's all
Anybody
I can
else?
think of.
Anybody else wants to add?
Yeah, Raviji, may I try?
Please, Natraji.
See, what happens is if you have vidya, then you are there's no longer any karma because you are not doer. It is because you have avidya that you think you are the doer.
Yeah.
Therefore, you have the karma, and what makes you do it is the karma. So if you have vidya, there is no karma, there is no doing nothing. So that is how the three get related.
Very good. So avidya basically, I'll just expand a bit more what Natarajanji said. Avidya basically is the what you call lack of knowledge that I am Purnaha. Right? So the moment you say avidya, you are saying apurnatvam is there. That I feel that I'm incomplete. If I feel that I'm apurna, what is the next step? The next step is I want to be purna. And if I want to be purna, the next step is that I want to either acquire something which I think will make me purna, or I want to get rid of something which I think is making me apurna. And therefore, from apurnatvam comes desire, the kamaha, to acquire or to get rid of. And from that desire comes karma, which is the action to acquire or get rid of. And from the action comes karma phalam. And from the karma phalam, what happens? One goes back into samsara. Therefore, he says dukkha moolam. It is the root of sorrow. And therefore, nindyate. You should be avoided completely. You should look down upon anything which is a product of avidya. So the karma, basically, the pursuit of karma is like peeling an onion. How long do you peel an onion? What do you get when you peel an onion?
Another peel.
And then
Another
you peel that, and you peel that. So when all the peels are removed,
it's
there's
all
nothing
gone.
inside. Right? There's nothing inside, and therefore there's a criticism implied here of karma, and that criticism will be there in the next mantra. So before we go to the mantra, remember that all this is a discussion of, so far, what has happened is a discussion of Vaidika karma, but without upasana, right? Now, again, one more thing I must point out here is that in those people who are reading maybe the Bhashyam, will find that the word jnanam is used here. So, in fact, Shankara himself, in his commentary, which I talked about, he says, etat jnanam rahitam karma, right? So, means karma without jnanam. But because of the context, you have to understand carefully, and he himself explains that jnanam in this context is not knowledge. Jnanam in this context means upasana, which means dhyanam, meditation. And we have to carefully note here, therefore, whenever we say jnanam in this particular context, it is not nirguna ishvara jnanam, it is saguna ishvara upasanam, right? And without that, so until this mantra, we have done it without jnanam. That is, there has been kevala karma, which is upasana rahita karma, which is jnana rahita karma. So jnanam is not knowledge over here. Jnanam is nothing but upasana or dhyanam. So that carefully note, because you will find that in a lot of discussions in later Upanishads also, the word jnanam is used very freely to indicate upasana. And we should be very careful about that. Otherwise, it's very easy to misunderstand. And therefore, Vaidika karma can be done with or without upasana. In fact, that is why, for example, in Vishnu Sahasranama, you have dhyana slokas. So, beginning with Atha Dhyanam, right? And this is what Shankara is pointing out here, that results of pure karma are rooted in avidya, and they are very finite. So, they will not lead you anywhere. They will only give you more and more, dukkha. And in this context, you should remember the mantra sloka. Yehi samsparshaja bhogaha dukkha yonaya evate. The 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he says that this is the womb of all these karmas. They are basically the womb, dukkha yonihi, the womb of all sorrows. And therefore, there is a very clear looking down upon on basically any karma itself. And for that matter, karma accompanied by upasana also, but to a lesser extent. So let us look at the 7th mantra now. We will read. We are in the 7th mantra of the 2nd section. We are reading. Plavahete adudha yajna rupa. Ashtadashoktam avaram yeshu karma.
Karma.
Etachreyo yabhinandanti moodaha.
Yandanti Mudaha.
Jara mrityum te punareva piyanti.
Jara mrtyum
Punarevapayanti.
So he's talking about basic karma and he says, Ete ashtadashaha. Ashtadashaha means 18. So ete ashtadashaha yajna rupaha. Yajna rupaha is the components, the constituents of any yajna. So ete ashtadashaha yajna rupaha. There are 18 components of any yajna, uktam, which are mentioned in the scriptures. Uktam means mentioned. Mentioned where? Shastra uktam. So ete ashtadashaha yajna rupaha shastre uktam. There are 18 components of any yajna which are mentioned in the scriptures. And yeshu, upon these 18 components, avaram karma. In avaram is inferior, varam is superior, avaram is inferior, and eshu avaram karma. Upon these 18 components, avaram karma, inferior karma rests. Inferior karma is based on these 18 components. And again, adhridaha plavaha. Plavaha is a boat. Adhridaha is very feeble or very undependable. So these 18 components upon which inferior karma rests are like fragile boats, undependable boats. And ye abhinandanti, those people who claim etat shreyaha, that this karma, this karma, shreyaha, is a means for shreyas. Shreyas means moksha over here. Those people who claim that inferior karma is the means for moksha, mudaha, they are mudhas, they are fools. And what happens to them? Te apiyanti. Punaha eva. Again and again, apiyanti means enter. They enter again and again, jara mrityum, the cycle of old age and death. So cycle of birth and death, they enter again and again. Okay, so he's talking about yajna as a boat, as a ship. And this yajna ship is very undependable and it is managed by 18 constituents, 18 supports on whom all the inferior karma depend. And then there are some people who think that this inferior karma is the means for moksha, and because they think so, they are ignorant, they are deluded, and therefore because of the delusion, again and again, they will enter the cycle of birth and death. Okay, this is a word meaning. Now let's look at what is being actually taught here. So until the 6th mantra, the teacher was talking about the beneficial effects of Agnihotram. Agnihotram was being done as a kamya karma and had plenty of benefits. Having talked about the positive aspects of karma, now the Acharya is talking about the negative aspects of karma. Remember, we are talking about negative aspects of karma done as kamya karma, done as karma for desires. Okay, if it is done for nishkama karma, has only chitta shuddhi as the phalam, and there is no negative aspect over there. So we are talking about kama karma or sakama karma. And the Acharya is criticizing people, ignorant people whom he calls mudaha, who use these rituals for finite purposes. Why is it that such people have to be criticized? Because all karma phalam have tridosha. What are the tridosha of karma phalam?
Possession, maintenance, and loss.
Atrupti karatvam.
Atripti. What is the atripti? And
Atriptikaratvam, bandhakatvam, dukkhamishritvatvam.
Can you explain that? These are three doshas: atriptikaratvam, mandakatvam, and
Dukkhamishritvatvam.
dukkhamishritatvam. Can you please explain that?
Atriptikaratvam is about whatever you achieve, you still not satisfied. You want some more, some
You
more.
want more. No karma
More.
can completely satisfy you. Then
Yes. Bandhakatvam, every karma binds you.
every karma binds you because finally you depend upon the karma for your happiness. And the third one,
Dukkhamishritvatvam is you have suffering when you want to achieve that, like when you want to possess, there is pain. And to maintain that, there is pain. Even when you lose it also, you
Okay.
have pain.
so three aspects are there of dukkhamishritatvam. So that is three doshas. And therefore, karma by very nature is parichinnam. It is limited because it gives you very limited benefits. So there is a rule: yatha karma, tatha phalam. Karma itself is finite, right? Phalam therefore has to be finite, right? And that is why we say that Swarga cannot be eternal, because Swarga is created in time, and what is created in time is also destroyed in time. And so also, because karma which you generate, karma phalam which you generate, punyam which you generate through your karma, karma itself is limited, right? You cannot have infinite karma. And since karma is limited, karma phalam is limited, punyam is limited. And therefore, when you go to Swarga, it's like using the bank balance that you have when no more income is being generated. So you have a certain amount of punyam, you use that to go to Swarga. Every minute that you are enjoying in Swarga, you are using up that stock of punyam. When the stock is over, you have to come back. And therefore, all these people who go to Swarga or who want to go to Swarga, they don't realize that that trip is governed by limited punyam also. And therefore, he says, yajna rupaha. All the constituents of a yajna. So people, material, means conscious, chetana, achetana, all the accessories used in the puja, they are ashtadasha uktam. They are said to be 18. And this is mentioned in the scriptures that there are 18 parts, constituents of a yajna. What are they? Remember that there are 4 Vedas and 4 priests represent each Veda. So there are 16 pujaris in a yajna, in a proper yajna, 16 pujaris. And there is one yajamana and one yajamana patni. So there are 18 components. So without this patni, of course, patni is very important. Without patni, no Vedic ritual can be performed. Right? Patni is the one who provides the infrastructure, that is the house, provides the offerings, the havihi, the ghee, all that she provides. And therefore, she is an integral part of every yajna. She comes in at the start of the yajna and she has to give her permission to start the yajna. Without the Yajamana Patni's permission, the yajna cannot start. And because of this, 50% of the punyam generated in the yajna. Who is the person who performs the yajna? The Yajamana, right? The husband. And let us say 100 units of punyam generated, 50% of the punyam goes to the Patni because of this role of providing the infrastructure and giving the permission and all that. And there is a flip side of it. If this Yajamana commits any mistakes, any papam, right? It belongs to the Yajamana alone. The Patni does not share it, right? On the other hand, if the Patni commits papam, 50% of that papam goes to the Yajamana, right? So it's a very great, beautiful partnership, loaded very heavily in favor of the Patni. And therefore, do you see the Shastram, how it elevates the lady? The partnership is very beautiful for the lady because she gets benefits even when if everything goes well, 50% she gets. If she makes a mistake, she takes only half the credit or the debit. The rest of it goes to her husband. Okay. And that's why, you know, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Panini Sutras. There is a derivation in Panini Sutra of a patni. It says, Patyurno yajna sanyoge. Yajna sanyoge. The patni, pati patni, the sanyogam, the connection, yajna sanyoge, has to be established through yajna. And therefore, according to the Shastram, your registered marriage in the court does not make you husband and wife. Unless there has been a yajna, the marriage yajna has been there, the connection is not established. And that's why yajna sayoge, it's a connection which enables the pati, the husband, to be eligible to perform a yajna. And without the patni, remember, without the wife, the husband can never enter into a religious life. He cannot undertake any of the rituals at all. And therefore, 18 parties are required. That's why Ashtadasha Yuktam. In yajnas, the Yajurveda ritual also is important. The Yajurveda priest is called a Yajurgana. We must have discussed this elsewhere also. The Yajur priest is called a Yajurgana. The Rigveda priest is called a Hotragana. The Samaveda priest is called a Udgatragana. The Atharveda priest is called a Brahmagana. Okay, so we have discussed this, I think, somewhere else also. And here it is saying that all these 18 are adhrida. They are weak, they are fragile, they are undependable, and therefore adhrida plavahi ete. They are like a boat which has been made of tying a few wooden logs. It's undependable because the string can break at any time and the boat can be destroyed. So it's weak, it's fragile. And that plava, that boat, might work on a peaceful, waveless lake, but definitely cannot be used to cross the ocean of samsara. So the Vedic karmas and the pujas are being likened to this very undependable raft. You can get some punyam out of it, but they are not sufficient for you to cross the samsara sagara, the ocean of samsara. What can these Vedic karmas do? Are they completely useless? No. They can generate punyam, and therefore they can help you avoid some, painful situations, some undesirable situations like naraka or a lower birth. All this you can do. Good karma, which is of course the Vedic karma, will generate punyam. It can at the most ensure that you keep on coming back to this world, or maybe you go to Swarga and have a better life. It can make sure that you avoid going to a lower life form. So they can help you avoid temporary pain. And if there's sufficient amount of punyam, they can get you to Swarga also. But Swarga itself is not permanent. What is the pramanam for that from Bhagavad Gita? That Swarga is not permanent. Anybody remembers? Chapter 9. There is a pramanam there. That when the punyam is over, you will come back to this world as a jiva. What is the pramanam? If you don't remember, it means you're not chanting Bhagavad Gita regularly. Just because of an Upanishad doesn't mean that you can give up the chanting of Bhagavad Gita, okay? That is the very core, the very basis. Anybody? Nobody? Shine Punye. I'm giving the first two words. Shine Punye. No?
Matyalokam
Yeah.
Vishanti.
Shine Punye, Martya Lokam Vishanti. Shine Punye, when the Punyam is over, Martya Lokam Vishanti, they come back to the land of the mortals, which is this Bhuloka. And therefore, this boat cannot help you cross the ocean of samsara. And therefore, if you are using that boat for avaram karma, inferior karma will be depending upon the 18 limbs, which themselves are unsteady. the karma itself is also unsteady and therefore avaram. Because even if they take you to Swarga, it's not a permanent destination. It will bring you back. And it is avaram, inferior. Why? Because it is not backed up by upasana. So remember that Vedic karma can be samanya karma, ordinary karma, which has no backup of upasana, or it can be karma plus upasana, which is superior karma. This karma enforced by meditation. And that is why whenever you meditate, whenever you do any ritual, before the ritual, there is supposed to be a few minutes of upasana, meditation on the deity involved in the ritual. So this is called a yagnya anga upasana. You have to meditate on the deity before you start the ritual. And this meditation will give you additional power. And therefore, this particular type of karma is called upasana sammuchita karma. That is karma sammuchita, reinforced with upasana. And that is why before any parayanam, remember parayanam is only karma, right? Before any parayanam, you will find there are dhyana slokas. And you can, of course, and most of us chant these dhyana slokas also very mechanically. But dhyana slokas, by its very nature, is meant for dhyanam. They are not meant for parayanam, but they are meant for dhyanam. So dhyana slokas have to be chanted, understanding the meaning as a meditation. And there are descriptions of the Lord, right, for whom the parayanam is being done. Once you do that, then you go to the parayanam, and therefore becomes upasana sahita parayanam or upasana sahita karma. So plain parayanam, not reinforced by upasana, falls under the head of avaram karma. It will not give you moksha. It will not take you to moksha. I mean, by way of giving you enough chitta shuddhi. And those who think that, there are many people who think that plain karma is also okay. And they think plain karma is superior, in fact. So he says, ye mudaha etat shreyaha. These mudhas, these deluded people who think that karma is superior, who think that karma is the way to moksha, they don't understand the futility of trying to use this unstable boat to cross the ocean of samsara. Karma cannot give moksha. This is the fact. Shreya here is meant as another term for moksha. Shreyas means moksha. And therefore, whether karma is the karanam for moksha or not is the question that we should all ask ourselves. What is the understanding we should have? Karma cannot be Shreya Karanam. But instead of coming to that conclusion, if I come to the conclusion that karma indeed is the cause of moksha, and Shastra says that you are a mudaha. What can be the result? Mudaha abhinandanti. The muda rejoices. He thinks he's a very big success in life. But here, muda means he has not seen the limitation of karma. Therefore, he is mudaha. And because he has not seen the limitation of karma, what will happen? Jara mrityum te punareva apiyanti. They will enter the cycle of disease and death and rebirth. What is being said in the mantra is that apara vidya will ensure that you remain in the cycle of death and rebirth. And therefore, whatever karma I do, let me not do it for material benefit. Let me do it for spiritual growth only. And this by itself, the idea that I am, that karma leads me to success in spiritual life. The idea that karma will lead me to moksha, it's a problem, right? It's a problem only for the person who is a mudaha, as long as he is a sadhaka. So a mudaha sadhaka is not a problem because the problem is only for himself. But unfortunately, some of these mudaha sadhakas, they become spiritual teachers. And when the mudaha sadhaka becomes a spiritual teacher, then not only is he a problem for himself, he is a problem for his students also. And that is being said in the next verse, which we will take up in the next class. Any questions, please? Okay, so with this we'll stop. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. Om Shanti
Shanti,
Shanti
Shanti,
Shanti.
Shanti.
Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your
Om Namah
patience.
Shivaya. Thank you,
Thank
Acharya.
you.